Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, we're going to be talking about the president's trip to United Kingdom and some of the dimensions to it. And to join me in that very important conversation, I have three career diplomats who served Nigeria all the way to the top of their careers as ambassadors. All the way from Lagos, joining us virtually, we have Ambassador Olusegun Akinsanya, MNI, who was Nigeria's ambassador to Ethiopia. He was also the permanent representative of our country to African Union and also the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. By the way, he has been a diplomat even between 84 and 90 in the United Kingdom, where this stuff is happening. We'd like to welcome, for the first time, Ambassador Akinsanya. You are welcome to Inside Sources, sir.
Thank you very much, Laulu. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you, sir. And here in the studio, returning to the Inside Sources, is Ambassador Lawrence Obishakin, who was our ambassador to the Republic of Benin. Ambassador Obishakin actually also was the state controller of protocol in Aso Villa, I believe, during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. So it's a delight, Excellency, to welcome you back to Inside Sources.
Thank you, Laulu, for inviting me again. It's always a delight to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Joining us for the first time, we have another Nigerian diplomat who has been in service since the days of President Shehu Shagari, right there in the villa. And he served all the way till the time of Abacha, and he rose to become our ambassador to Togo. I'd like to welcome for the first time Ambassador Matthew Adoli to Inside Sources. Excellency, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. So let's start with Ambassador Olusegun Akinsanya. Now, in your view, Excellency, why do you think this trip is happening now, this invitation by the Brits to our president? It hasn't happened in the last 37 years. What do you think has changed, Ambassador Akinsanya?
Well, again, thank you for inviting me, and I also welcome my two colleagues and brothers there. Well, in all the reports, the media reports, and that we've received, it has been described as a historic visit. It's memorable. It resets Nigeria-UK relations, and it's a way of deepening and strengthening the cordial relations that have long existed between Nigeria and the UK, the past colonial experiences, the post-colonial independent experiences, and of course, shared values in terms of language and culture. And all these are been there, and but we have to situate this current visit in the context of the international environment. Things have changed. There have been a lot of realignments, and various countries, either big or small, rich or poor, are trying to find their meaning of interrelationships. And Nigeria and UK have come a long way. In fact, this visit brings a lot of reminiscences to me, because I was serving in the High Commission in London in 1989 when President Babangida visited, and we had our minister, Ike Wachukwu, as the foreign minister. It was quite a memorable visit. But I think we need to look at the context of the fact that over the last 37 years, there have been other visits of high levels. But this is a state visit that was meticulously prepared. And we had also an invitation by King Charles III and Queen Camilla inviting an elected president, and the person of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu and Lady Oluremi to visit the UK And the visit also was taking place, in Windsor. All the other meetings, when it was in Buckingham Palace. But I know that Buckingham Palace is undergoing quite a lot of renovation now. But what is unique from my own perspective is the fact that this new alignments in the context of our relations need to strengthen their new challenges. Britain itself has our challenges since the left Brexit. And this state visit, and from what we saw, it was the ceremonial element was the British traditions at its best. And you can see that the warmth, the hospitality, the mien was something unique. But also, I want to believe that the uniqueness of it comes in terms of the news, the positive news that are coming about Nigeria, the increasing aspects of our economy, the fact that our trade figures have really improved to about 8.1 billion pounds, even though it is still skewed in favor of Britain. But this is an elected president, one who has been a Democrat, and the fact that the news that is coming from Nigeria in terms of the stability of our economy, even though we have tremendous challenges.
Thank you for those opening comments. I'm going to bring it to our guest here in the studio, and I acknowledge that all of my esteemed guests are diplomats. So I know there's also the way that diplomats speak, but I'm a journalist, so I'm also going to be a journalist. In the way I'm going to frame some of my questions. So there's the view, and I'm taking this to Ambassador Bishaki and then, of course, Ambassador Adoli. There's the view that the Brits suddenly got keen on Nigerian relationship because of the relationship that we have seen demonstrated globally between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and President Macron. President Tinubu must have gone to Paris, at least 5 times already, showing a lot of camaraderie between himself and Macron. And there are those who say that the Brits are seeing all of this and they don't want to be left out in the picture. France has a little bit of inroad into British old colonies, and Britain has no access at all to French colonies. So they set up and say, hey, we're going to get our thing back. Ambassador Bishaki, how do you respond to that?
Well, thank you very much for referring me to this question, referring the question to me. Well, you always have at least 2 views of any sociological issue. This is about relationship. There's no doubt that our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has a special personal rapport with the French president. And that's maybe by hazard or time or by design. However, we must not forget that Nigeria has been the colony of the United Kingdom. We must also forget that Nigeria has a lot to learn. Unlike France, Britain has many nationalities. The Welsh are there, the Scots are there. And if we talk of multi or diversity of nations in a state like Nigeria, it brings conflict. And Nigeria has a lot to learn from this. There's been no doubt. And who will not know the power of the Great Britain, even in the global reach? You see, our people said that no matter how early a child wakes, he will always find the stump on the pathway to the forest. The British have been around for long, and don't forget that their colony is the United States. And as I told you, is a hyperpower, So there's no doubt about it. It may be one of the reasons why they are waking up to this. But the truth is also that the king, His Majesty, King Charles III, has just come to the throne. And it has been almost 40 years. Nigeria has not had the most glamorous visit to the old metropolis. State visit is the most glamorous, as I said in my book. That's when they bring out the horse-drawn carts, the military decorated, the beefeaters, which are retired people, and also
very serious glamour.
Yeah, it is. in fact, it's the most glamorous of all the 5 diplomatic visits that I have on record. It's the most glamorous. And it costs money. And it's also is a sign of friendliness. You don't invite your enemies for state visits. And you don't have many state visits. Nigeria doesn't have more than 2 or 3, for example. France also. So it's a mark of friendship and esteem given to Nigeria. You don't have many. One of the hallmarks of state visits is that you don't have many of them.
And clearly, based on what you said, the Brits must have a big reason for doing this at this time.
Of course. Money too.
Okay.
Nigeria is a big money.
Okay.
Our demography, the youth demography, and what our fintech is doing. We have one of the best. I can reel out the figures. Right. We are really doing fine.
I agree with that. Okay, let's bring it to Ambassador Adoli also. And, it's the same question, but I'll just frame it in another different way. Do you think, in addition to all that we've said, that the effect and the impact of Brexit, that's Britain withdrawing from the EU, as it puts the Brits in a situation where they are really looking for such a huge market, such as the one they have in Nigeria? Excellency.
Thank you very much. Naturally, Britain would not want to be isolated economically in the world. They have to deal with Europe on a newly defined economic relationship. But then with Nigeria, they have to look into Nigeria, up to Nigeria, in the sense that, one, they were our colonial masters, and they will not want any other nation to take over from them in terms of economic relationship that is viable. Nigeria, as you know, is the economic power of Africa. And there's no country in this world that would not want to associate or deal with Nigeria as the powerhouse, economic powerhouse of Africa. So it is in their interest and our interest to work together, to do things together as it has been since Nigeria was amalgamated. They cannot afford to do without Nigeria. So the truth is that, like the president visited London, a lot of economic roundtables, business roundtables have been held. A lot of investment promotions have been discussed. Exchanges have been made. And for instance, like Zenith Bank has established a presence there. They are also anxious to come and invest in Nigeria, knowing fully well now that our democracy is stable and the president is doing a very good job in Nigeria. Let me tell you something. As President Tinubu is, with his personal personality, anywhere in the world he indicates that he wants to visit, the president or prime minister of that country will quickly clear his table to receive him, and vice versa.
Why is that?
Yes, because...
Why do you say that? Why do you think any president will want the Nigerian president to visit?
Yes. But you have seen examples from the Arab countries and many other countries, because the president, one, knows his onions, he knows how to market Nigeria, and he has created a conducive environment for investment in the country. Not minding the fact that we have insurgency, which is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. It's all over, and we are mastering it. We're on top of the situation. So anybody would like to come and invest in Nigeria with a lot of diverse resources.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think we're going to go one more round of questions and then we round up. So we take it to Ambassador Akinsoya. Now, I want to ask you how you think, other world leaders, other countries will view what is happening, this particular visit. And I want to situate it within the context of the relationship between France and Britain. France and Britain has always been quite a bit of rivals. As a matter of fact, I'm going to recall what Professor F.S. Notedge was professor of international relations from the London School of Economics. This is what he said about the relationship between France and UK, especially during the First Two World Wars. He said of France, now he is a British professor, and he said of France, he said, France to the British is a friend not to be relied upon and an enemy not to be feared. I'll say that again. This is Professor F.S. Notedge, a professor at the London School of Economics. This is what he said about France in relationship to Britain. He said, France is a friend not to be relied upon and an enemy not to be feared. So my question to you, Ambassador, is that how do you think other world leaders, starting from France, will view this love, show of love, from the Brits to Nigeria regarding this visit?
Well, that's a very loaded question, and I'm sure that it's something that will attract a lot of interest here. In terms of the varied colonial experiences, both countries had a great in Africa in terms of the Francophonie and, of course, the colonial experience and shared experiences with Nigeria. And you view this alongside with the Francophonie, the French-speaking countries, and Nigeria in terms of experiences. Of course, the French, in terms of their colonial experience, is more of direct rule. They make as much as French as possible. And in terms of, if you situate this along the lines of Unilever and CFAO and SCOA, that had their grip in those two countries. The economy of most of the West African countries, Francophone, with Nigeria is more than it is France. So this I would say, love-hate, the rivalry relations has been there in terms of our relationship with Africa and the role that Nigeria played in ECOWAS and others. In fact, there was a time that people like Senghor and Houphouët-Boigny, who are proteges of the French, were saying that, ECOWAS is a no-go area at the initial stage. But when they realized that they are going to make a lot of money out of the integration, they changed their ways in terms of Senghor, Houphouët-Boigny provided some support. Well, what I'm trying to draw from here is that the rivalry has been there, and with the situation of Britain now and UK getting out of the Brexit, new alignments are very important. And we have seen this in coming into play in terms of what is now happening. Even in the US, in terms of the ongoing situation with Iran. I mean, you can see that the US is not happy with UK and other. So these are realignments. But in terms of these realignments, you need new friendship. You want to solidify and deepen and strengthen your relationship with countries that you have common interest and shared values and shared institutions with. So I don't see, a lot of people would really be looking at even China, our friends, and then of course Brazil and others, that Nigeria is, President Tinubu has visited, even Turkey, they will have their reaction that, oh, Nigeria is a country to now do business with. Nigeria is a place to go. There will be reactions. There will be mixed feelings about what is unique about this country. But of course, in terms of our demography, in terms of our development, in terms of the diaspora engagement, Nigeria is in a very good state with Britain. with UK. And this is what is likely to come out of this visit in terms of the way other countries will see Nigeria, that Nigeria has come, that all that is being said about religious problems, Christian, Muslim, that is misplaced. I mean, you can see that in this visit, we have our lady, the First Lady, Remi Tinubu, going to address the Lambert's house. And these are some of the things that are novel approach to international solidarity that is coming from Nigeria. And people will take a cue. There are quite a lot of people that would believe that, oh, well, I mean, what is unique about Nigeria? We thought that is hard, but it's now bringing out the strength of Nigeria in terms of the population, in terms of our geopolitical significance in West Africa, our role in ECOWAS, the peace efforts that we're making. And I think this will attract some interest. And also the fact that, this meeting that UK, spreads, bring out the best in their traditions, which has not happened in terms of other state visits to Britain.
Right.
So it will arouse some jealousy, it will arouse some interest. These are positive issues.
Okay.
That Nigeria is great, Nigeria is ready to do business with, and Nigeria has come out as a country that you cannot ignore in the international arena.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Excellency. Let's bring it to the studio as we begin to conclude. I'm going to ask Ambassador Adoli, and then Ambassador Bishaki will conclude. So beyond the glamour and all the glitz, the cultural displays, certainly the Brits have they've gone to very long extent to impress President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria. There's no doubt about that. Beyond all of that, what do you think will be the net benefit to the Nigerian people, Ambassador?
Well, the net benefits to Nigerian people are many and unquantifiable. In the first place, apart from the ceremonials, Nigerians in London will have their morale boosted to continue to bring home proceeds of their investment, to come and invest at home, in the sense that the president has gone there, they've seen the enthusiasm in him, they're aware of the positive economic reforms the president is doing at home, the reforms that will stand the test of time, and they want to be part of it. Because President Tinubu is laying a solid foundation for the economic development of this country. He is promoting political stability, and that is why you see that apart from the Boko Haram issue, there is peace among Nigerians.
Excellent. Important point. I'm taking it to Ambassador Bishaki now, and I wanted to ask that, you are a diplomat, you've worked in the Villa States Controller of Protocol. The opposition has said that the timing of this visit is a little bit off. As a matter of fact, one of the spokespeople of the opposition said that the president ought to have cancelled this trip because on Monday, we had suicide bombers, explosions in several places in Maiduguri, and almost 20 people died and over 100 injured. And I think it's not the right time for the president to go to UK and be riding carriages with the, with the King of England and all of that. What would have been your counsel, to the president if you were there? Because you were actually the state controller of protocol to President Obasanjo.
I was director of protocol. The Abbey State Chief of Protocol was my boss, Ambassador Hussein. Now, I want to express my and my people's deep condolences with the people that died as a result of suicide bombing last Monday in Maiduguri. That being said, see, this visit has been arranged for long. And the king is inviting you. And with all due emotions, we must solve our problem. President Tinubu is not going to enter the armored vehicles, and he has dispatched the service chiefs to go there. And our valiant soldiers have really ruined, to a great extent, those who caused that havoc. But I think after all is done, because the visit will be over, usually state visits don't take more than 3 days, actually 2 active days. And there are a lot of proverbs that says this, that once the curtain is lowered, the play is over. We all go really to face our realities. And I think the visit of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is relevant, because don't forget, the British faced the IRA and they were able to resolve it. The British, the French, I remember I told 1978, Italy faced the same thing, the Red Brigade and all this, and they were able to resolve it. I believe the chief, our defense minister, went with him. Some people say he shouldn't have gone. I think he should go. The service chiefs are there. And if they cannot fight and do their duties, as we all did our duty during our time, then why are they there? It is good to play to the gallery. The opposition, with due respect to them, they are doing their duties. But I think there are better ways of doing it too. There are better ways of doing these duties. We should not just play to the gallery. The fact is that the millions that are being brought to Nigeria through the negotiations that is done now, we need it. Also, we need intelligence. This war is an asymmetric war. And the British are very good at intelligence services. And that's why we must have as many friends that will help us, but we must solve our problem at home. The saboteurs within our armed forces should be dealt with. And those who are using religion to go and call for what kind of jihad, it is not our interest. Nigerians don't kill themselves. Thank God the Sultan has spoken that, look, it is not in Islam to kill people. All those people, the Northerners, especially the leaders, should bring them out, disown them. I believe these are not Nigerians. They are foreigners. We know when somebody opened all the gates and said everybody should just come in. And now look at what we are facing. We must be very careful. People say that when it rains, the rain that fell suddenly makes people to pen both the house fowl and the pigeons. Otherwise, they don't sleep together.
Thank you so much. I'm going to extend it because Ambassador Adoli wants to comment, and then I'm going to ask Ambassador Akisoya to have the last word on the same question. Ambassador Adoli, just a minute.
Thank you very much. I recall that in December 1983, like I told you, I've worked with 6 heads of state at the Villa, State House Lagos and the Villa. In 1983 December, Shagari was going to India. Okay. We had taken off already, getting close to Delhi, when we were told that net was on fire in Lagos.
Okay.
And we effected the state visit seamlessly. It's unfortunate that the opposition, they don't look beyond their nose.
So your point is that, Shagari was already mid-air.
Sure.
Sure. But in this case, the opposition are saying that he didn't leave.
They don't even know how to analyze events. What do you think the world will think of us? That President Tinubu is already in London or on his way to London, an accident or an incident occurs in Nigeria, and he turns back from Britain.
No, the world will laugh. It happened before he left.
Yes, because this is something that has been programmed months ago through the normal diplomatic channels, and the world will laugh at us if we do not go. Currently, the service chiefs are in Maiduguri. The vice president went there yesterday. All arsenals to combat insurgency are on ground and are recording positive results. Why is the opposition always on edge? They are afraid of the election. Let them please leave President Tinubu alone to do his work.
Okay.
President Tinubu is there to represent the whole country, even representing the opposition. So when they talk like that, it means they are afraid of the election. Let them prepare for election instead of always criticizing Tinubu, when he's doing the correct thing, and that is a blunt truth.
Okay.
He must have his term up to 2031. all the efforts, yes, all the efforts they are doing to sabotage him will not work.
All right.
Please tell them.
And you are certainly entitled to your
please bring it out,
to your views, and it's quite exciting. But we're going to ask Ambassador Akíntóyè to have the last word. A lot of people felt that the president did not show enough sympathy. Yes, he did direct the military high command to relocate, and they have done that very promptly to their credit. But the opposition says that, look, this is very serious, and they haven't seen the president, that they even think that I should have cancelled it. Last word, Ambassador Akíntóyè, please.
No, I think we need to be circumspect. Our opposition will have their say, but of course, we must look at things in its proper perspective. The visit could not have been cancelled. Mr. President not only issued a statement, condolences to all that those who lost their life, but he immediately deployed the service chiefs into the theater, and we have seen some results of it. This visit was meticulously planned, with interministerial meetings, with a lot, and who will beat the events that took place yesterday? It's an event that everyone will be proud of. With the ceremonial elements, with the queen, with the king issue, as somebody who had participated in issues like that, I mean, one would be proud to be in Nigeria. Mr. President will not have cancelled that visit, and he will be back more invigorated, more armed, because Kestama is meeting him today at 10 Downing Street. The defense issue and how to address our security is top on the agenda. The National Security Advisor is there. The Minister of Defense is there. I think our opposition should begin to look at the interest of Nigeria. The interest of Nigeria is what is important, not the personal interest of, why doesn't he do this? Of course, the president is the president of Nigeria. He has a responsibility to reset the agenda, to deepen and strengthen our relations. And this is what we have done. I believe that this visit is very unique, and it's economic diplomacy at work.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Akíntóyè, for that last word. And thank you, Ambassadors Obishaki and Adole. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. We're always available.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to be going to the conclusion of my conversation. Go ahead, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Ambassador Akíntóyè.
Thank you, Laulu. And as I said in my intro, you and the channels are doing a very great job in terms of bringing our career people that have served this country diligently and meticulously to comment on very topical national issues, because we are experiences that can be shared. And I think Channels is doing a good job in that respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Akíntóyè. Again, thank you, Ambassador Obishaki and Ambassador Adole. Thank you. Yeah, and that's the segment. The second segment, I'm going to conclude my conversation with the former managing director of The Guardian on what is happening in Iran and also preparations for 2027. Inside Sources will be right back.